Hi Stuart, Joe here from the Celtic Manor Golf Academy. As requested, we're just going to do a little bit of video analysis here from the footage you've sent us of your driver swing on the driving range. So first of all, it's important to point out there's a lot of good stuff going on in your golf swing. Just from this swing alone, we can see it's probably pretty obvious. You send the ball out there a fair way, you create a lot of speed and a lot of leverage in your swing, which is generally conducive to some pretty long hitting. There's a couple of sort of technical irregularities, idiosyncrasies, whatever you want to call them, which I think if we can manage to get a grip of those and tone them down a little bit, your consistency would go through the roof. You hit a lot more fairways, and as such probably your scores would come tumbling down a little bit. So if we can just point those out, I've split screen you here with Aaron Badley, purely because a couple of the moves you make, which I think might cause you a couple of issues, he does very, very well. So he's going to be a good example for you to have a look at here. So the first area I want to have a look at with yourself is going to be forearms and right hand position at address. You can see, if I just zoom in a little bit on your right hand, a little bit underneath the club in what we'd call a strong position, you can see quite a lot of left forearm visible out in front of the right forearm. Obviously we'd get a better view from face on, but from this angle, a telltale sign of a strong right hand grip is a little bit of left forearm visible there. So, you know, not a disaster. A lot of people have played very successfully with strong grips, strong left hands and right hands, so it can be more of a characteristic. It's just something that I'd want to keep an eye on with yourself, because it can manifest itself a little bit later on in the swing with you. If you look at Aaron Badley over here, very little forearm of his left forearm visible out in front of his right, and you can see his right hand a little bit more on top of the club as opposed to underneath it. So that's one of the first areas we'd look at if that was influencing your ball flight, which I would suggest it probably is, that you might be prone to the odd hook off to the left. As we're moving into the backswing here, what I want you to concentrate on is your initial takeaway is very good, the initial line of your swing there. As we take it back a little bit further, for your hands getting towards hip height, I just want you to keep an eye on the club head position here. It's gone a little bit blurry because of the footage, but the head's around here with the shaft pointing at this sort of angle. It's a little bit inside, it's a little bit what we call underneath the plane, a little bit flat. As we just take you back to where Aaron Badley gets it here, and his hands are sort of hip height, you can see his club head is pretty much bang on parallel to the ball to target line. So the club shaft pointing very parallel to the ball to target line, with his club head a little bit more out in front of him. Important to note for you, because it really influences the top of your backswing position as we take it on through here. Because you've pulled it inside there, your hands follow the same path, your swing runs quite severely long, which again, not necessarily a fault, can very much be a characteristic. There's been a lot of players who've played successfully with very long swings, your Cabreras, Montgomerys, John Daly, an obvious one. So it's not a disaster, and it's probably a source of a lot of your speed, so it's not something you'd necessarily look to eradicate, but it is slightly across the line as well, which is going to influence the downswing and quite significantly influence the direction of your shot. So partly one of the causes, as well, as we take it back to halfway, just want you to highlight another area for you to look at. But just keep an eye on your left foot here. As we take it past this point, you can see a slight loss of stability in your left foot there. So your left knee comes shooting out, your left foot splayed a little bit. You can see quite a big gap between your right knee and your left knee there. You can see a gap between your legs. It's quite a little bit of loss of stability in your lower half there, which has caused you a couple of issues. Again, if we take Aaron up to the top there, keep your eye on his legs. Very, very stable, minimal movement. Left foot planted to the floor. Pretty solid position, as you can see. Again, top of the backswing, shaft very parallel to his ball to target line, whereas yourself, obviously, you've run a bit long and across the line. So that's from that long position, you've got a bit of work to do to get the club back on line, back on plane, and squarely into the back of the ball. Badley in that sense has just pretty much got to drop his club back straight down the same line it's come down and deliver it squarely into the back of the ball. You've got a little bit more work to do from there. You see that you create an enormous amount of leverage of what I'm talking about. The angle between your left forearm and your club head, huge amount of lag and leverage, which is probably a source of a lot of your speed. Hips turning very quickly through the ball, an enormous amount of speed, which is again why I said you definitely wouldn't struggle for length in my opinion. But just focusing on a couple of those areas, getting a slightly more neutral grip, slightly more stable lower half, and just keeping a check on that swing not running any longer. Like I said, it can be a characteristic, not necessarily a flaw, but I just think if we kept the lower half a little bit more stable and that takeaway a little bit more online, a better top of the backswing position would result in a lot more consistent flight and, like I said, a lot more fairways hit and lower scores. So if it's something that interests you, do pop in. If you're local, we can certainly help you out with that. If not, just work on a couple of things that I mentioned. Send us a video in the future and we'll have another look at it for you. But thanks for using the Twitter facility, and we look forward to seeing you at Celtic soon. Thanks.